Hi everyone, I'm Shelli Cohen, a Vote Everywhere ambassador for the Andrew Goodman Foundation, a nonpartisan organization that works to reduce barriers to student voting, as well as a member of the voting team at the Center for Civic Engagement. I'm talking today with Hollie Levine, the Democratic candidate for family court judge. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, Shelli.
Okay, so let's just jump right into it. So the first thing that I want to discuss is that many college students may not be familiar with the role of the family court. So can you tell us more about what the responsibilities of family court judge are and why this role is important to our community?
Definitely. Family court is probably, if you ask me, the most important court in our community. Family court hears issues involving children and family. Matters such as child custody, visitation, child support, juvenile delinquency, neglect and abuse of children, termination of parental rights, juvenile delinquency, adoptions, and I'm sure there's a couple others that I missed in my list right there. Many things. So these are very important matters. Family court judges sit in the courtroom every day and have to decide matters that come before them. Family court judges are not executives who administer programs or can establish new programs. Family court judges are not legislators who can advocate or pass laws. Judges adjudicate matters that appear in front of them. So it's really important that the person in the courtroom has the skills that are necessary to do that job well, who has experience in the courtroom and knows how to conduct a hearing and knows how to evaluate the parties that come in front of him or her. I'm not sure if I finished answering it. I can elaborate.
Yeah, no, that was great. That was great. So thanks for that overview of the role. But now we'd like to hear more about you and know what motivated you to run for this position.
Great. Okay, first off, I've lived in Broome County my whole life, so I'm very involved in our community. I'm a proud graduate of the SUNY system. I went away to SUNY Albany undergraduate, and then I went to SUNY Buffalo Law School, and then I returned to this community. And when I was an undergraduate, I first became interested in issues involving social justice. I mean, I had been interested at growing up, but it really became something that was important to me. I was involved particularly, and this was in the 1980s, with the anti-apartheid movement that was very active on campuses at that time. And I went to law school because it was really important to me to understand our justice system. I wanted a way to make people's lives better. And I felt that I could do that by studying the law. I wasn't certain whether or not I would actually practice law. But when I went to law school, I took legal clinics, working with the elderly, working with prisoners. And I realized that, yes, I did want to practice law, that I felt that I could affect people's lives and make people's lives better by working as an attorney. So I returned to Broome County, and my first job was with the public defender's office. And since then, I've had a career in the public sector, serving the public, working on behalf of people in this community. So of course, as a public defender, you're defending people who are charged with crimes. And I really developed my trial skills, and I had many, many trials. So I became very adept in the courtroom. And I also learned about different parts of this community that I hadn't been familiar with. Because when you're working at the public defender's office, you're representing people who are indigent, who can't afford their own attorneys. So I had grown up in this community, but this was a whole segment of the community that I had not been familiar with. So it was really important to me, and it opened my eyes to the variety of situations and living arrangements and circumstances that people have in Broome County. So after that, then I continued my career in public service. I worked for the New York State Attorney General's office doing consumer fraud work. And from there, I put together a program for the county on administering assigned counsel. I worked for legal aid, which was my first foray into representing people in family court. And for briefly, I was in private practice, also representing people in family court. But then I worked full-time in Broome County Family Court as what's called a court attorney to a judge. So that means that I sat in on the court hearings with the judge. I helped draft the decisions for the judge. I helped conduct settlement conferences on behalf of the judge. So I have over 5,000 hours of experience in family court. And then the last 20 years, I've been working for a New York State agency that is part of the court system that called Mental Hygiene Legal Service. And we represent people who have mental illness and developmental disabilities. I've had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, if not 1,000 hearings in mental health hearings and guardianship hearings, representing people who have mental illness or developmental disabilities. These hearings are very, very similar to the hearings that are held in family court These family court hearings are what are called bench trials. That means the judge is both the jury and making rulings on, like, for example, the admissibility of evidence. So the kind of hearings that I've been having the last 20 years are those same kind of hearings. So in looking at my career and where I wanted my career to go, I felt that this was the logical next step to bring all of these skills together, my commitment to our community, my advocacy for people, and my perspective that I've developed over the years of living in this community to bring it to the bench. And so I feel that I'm definitely the most qualified candidate. If you look at what qualities are needed in a judge: experience in the courtroom, judicial temperament, and ethics, and commitment to our community.
Thank you so much. My next question was actually be about your background and your experience, which you've basically already addressed. If there's anything that you would like to add on why, like, your background and experience, how that will prepare you to be successful in the position, if you want to direct it more in that direction.
Sure. Well, in addition to my professional life, I also have had a career of public service in my private life through volunteerism. I served for 8 years as a member of the Main Middle School District. And when you're talking about family court, you're talking about children. And where do children spend most of their time in non-COVID times? Other than the house, it's in the schools. So my commitment to our children in this community was served through my work on the Main Middle School Board. I also, of course, was a volunteer on many of those normal PTA activities, you know, the after prom party. I was also a judge in the Odyssey of the Mind competition. So I've worked very closely in activities involving children, but also other issues in this community. I served on the board of directors of the Southern Tier AIDS program in the early 90s. And, you know, this is, of course, before many of the people listening to this, if not all of them, were born. But it's in the 1990s, AIDS was a very controversial thing to be involved with. And it was something I felt very strongly about in making certain that getting rid of the prejudice in the community towards people who were HIV positive. So it was something I was involved with very deeply. I was also on the board of the Southern Tier AIDS program, and I was very active in my synagogue, the Reform Synagogue in Binghamton, Temple Concord. I was president of the Sisterhood 3 years. I was on the board of directors there also, and the executive board. So I've been a very active member of the Binghamton community, and I think that that is also something that's important, that a judge have a commitment to the community when they're sitting on the bench.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, and for sharing your experience and taking the time to meet with me today. But before we wrap up, I just want to ask if there's anything else you would like to share to help students decide who deserves their vote.
Well, I think it's really important that students vote down ballot. Okay, it's very easy for students to think, well, I don't live in this community, so what do I care about who the family court judge is? But the responsible thing to do is that to not waste that vote. You know, you're going to vote anyways if you're voting locally here. So think about who would serve the people of this community best. Look at the type of experience that candidate has and their ethical background, their community involvement. And I truly believe that if you look closely at both of the candidates, that you see that I'm the one who has the experience that matters, the character that counts, and the dedication to community, and you will vote for me. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us. And for the students who are watching this, remember to vote on November 3rd. And if you want any more information regarding voting, you could check out our website or stop by the Center for Civic Engagement located in University Union 137.